Okay, I have no idea if this if somebody pops on here and can tell me if my audio is good, that would be fantastic because I have this new mic that I got from my friend Sarah, and so I'm trying it out to see if the audio improves. This is going to be brief because I don't know, this has just come out in lieu of some of my recent live streams but it's been an issue for as long as I've been a thinking adult, and I never really. I mean, I've always put words on it, but I've come to understand it more and more in light of some of the criticisms that I get or the pushback that I get of things that I say. Um, so I don't. This is the thing that I don't understand, and it drives me nuts. I do not understand. Sorry about the content. I do not understand why religious conservatives and I included in that irreligious. I don't even remember who came up with the term irreligious, but it was essentially I think it was Haidt, Jonathan Haidt, and he's going to come up in this because essentially the way that he frames conservative is psychological, and so it's this disgust impulse. And so I've said often before, like in America, for example, politically and largely culturally, even though we are liberal, we're Western liberal people, we live in a world full of conservatives because everyone has this disgust impulse where it's that quote that I love from Bill Clinton is the last remaining acceptable form of bigotry is against those with whom you disagree. And so if you are a bigot against someone you disagree with, you're a conservative. I don't care if you think you're a progressivist or if you're think you're a conservative politically. You're conservative, you just have different values. And what drives me nuts, this is the way I will frame it, is long ago when I was on Twitter, I tweeted once that the conservative impulse is to deny the fringe. This is before I even knew of Peugeot. And the progressivist impulse is to want to normalize the fringe. And I said both are wrong because we need centers, we need peripheries, we need fringes. It's part of what makes up the duality that includes reality. The although there's a non-duality outside of that, which is like best exemplified in like the yin yang of the Tao or something, because of the to predicate something is to include its opposite, Hegel. So all that's true, but like the thing about conservatives that drives me nuts, and again, even in the way I'm framing this, is the progressivist is a conservative also, is that thank you, Dolly. She loves the hair. That's what happens when you just wake up and you're a crazy person. Um, I don't understand why conservatives, and it has something to do with POS theology. It has something to do with fear. I don't understand why temperamental conservatives. Okay, forget the moral and ideological categories. Temperamentally, people that are conservatively inclined. I don't understand why they don't fear that you can be conserved uh, by this uh, monolith hyper conservatism because that's the thing, right? You go on the spectrum. You can absolute totalitarian authoritarianism where you're scared of everything and you control everything because you're fearful of chaos. So like total order leads to death. Absolute order is death because they fear the chaos, right? So like absolute chaos is and in disorder is death too. But that's it's like what Peugeot said with the people that fear either the Chimera, the the conservatives, traditionalists, rigorist type people, or it's people that fear the hillbilly, more like me, people that are temperamentally liberal, which has nothing to do with my moral values. It has nothing to do with my moral values because I'm pretty conservative when it comes to moral values. It's just that I don't feel the need because I think it's pointless to tell other people what to think. All I'm trying to do, honestly, is to say what I think. But I don't, and this is probably the American "don't tread on me" part of me is that I don't like other people telling other people what to do. I don't like it. Philosophically, I think it's stupid, or unwise. Sorry, stupid's not a nice word. Um, and but people just shouldn't do it. I don't get. So like every realm and community that I get in, there's always these conservatives that are always seeking to define and control and narrow. They're always looking to increase order. Always. And again, that's like I'm not against that. That's an okay thing. But I'm just like, don't you realize that like you can be deceived with a hyper order just as much as you can with chaos? It's not a better thing. To increase order and structure and definitions is not a better thing. I would argue that's the problem with the modern world is the hyper order. It's not chaos. The chaos that's happening in the last 10 years or whatever, or the kind of chaos that people think are happening in this post-internet age of Gutenberg 2.0 is a response. It's blowback from hyper orderedness. It's not like all of a sudden that the world's getting too chaotic. It's getting as chaotic as it needs to be to stop the hyper order. So, and none of this is saying like, yay, political conservatives, or I mean, I'm not like advocating political progressivism or something. I'm not doing any of that stuff. It's just if you are temperamentally a conservative person, please, and you have any degree of intellectual capacity and self-awareness and as Christians especially, because Jesus said take the log out of your own eye, which I think that means individually, personally, and also within your own culture, realize that your fear of chaos and disorder and the unknown is just your temperamental proclivity. Satan can deceive you there. Think screw tape. Satan can conceive you in a desire to increase toward an authoritarian, totalitarian conservatism just as much as he can some like liberal, licentious wanting to justify their own whims or whatever. I hate that argument. I hate that argument so much. It drives me crazy. It's just like people that don't want this increasing order, they just want to justify their sin or something. It's just like, oh my gosh, can you stop it? Stop it. It's so maddening. All right, I don't want to make this too long because I actually have to go, so I can't really engage. I'll probably open this up just to let some people in to see if they have some responses. But and I'll end with this is what I put. Oh, it's in my what are we conserving here? So this is what I'll end with, and then I'll kind of open it up just for like 10 minutes because I'm not staying very long. But and I don't know how to control the gain or any of this stuff. Like I'm just trying to not be really terrible with this mic. Thanks, McMo. I see Phlebas, you have a question, but my priest said once, the conservative, like you have to ask yourself, because he said a lot of times when people come to orthodoxy, I'll just use orthodoxy as an example. They say it's a very conservative religion form of Christianity, right? It's very traditional, it's very liturgical, it's very structured. They don't really break from liturgy. Like this is the way we do things. So it's very conservative in that sense. But then he said you have to ask the question, what are we conserving? And he said we ought to be or we're conserving hospitality. And I was just like, God, that's brilliant and perfect. If you're conservative, conserve hospitality. And what that is a proper balance between masculine and feminine energies, uh, structure, boundaries, um, that bodiedness, because that you need a boundary to have a body. I'm not anti boundaries, but then you have to have an inflow and an outflow. It's like in my live stream about heresy. Um, and I do think somewhat intellectually we need to canonize the heretics. I do believe that. I don't think we will see properly. We'll get blinded by our own hyper authoritarianism when it comes to ideas, and we'll be blind. And I just sent this to some friends this morning, and I want to quote it here because it's awesome, and then I'll shut up and open it up. But Maximus is ambiguum. This is like everything. I sent this to my son. I said it to him, and I'm like, this is like a summary of all of my philosophy and theology and everything that I think is great. But so Maximus's Ambiguum, this is from Jordan Daniel Wood. He said this is a summary of like his whole book, The Whole Mystery of Christ. So this is Maximus's Ambiguum 722. that the word of God, very God, wills always and in all things to actualize the mystery of his incarnation. Yes. Yes. Amen. Glory. Hallelujah. Everywhere and in all things, even in the chaos, even in the unknown, even in this weird, emergent American identity, which is a non identity, which is like, what are we? What is this thing? What is liberalism? What is Protestant evangelicalism? What is then American Orthodoxy? Who knows? Seems like a misnomer. Whatever. I'm not worried about it. We'll figure it out. God will figure it out in us, because I don't think he figures things out apart from us. God's becoming is our becoming. All right. And I know, like, I'll say some of the things like this, like, I'm sure canonizing the heretics. And Phlebas is like, what does that mean? Um, okay, I'm leaving in a little bit. So let's see. Luke, can you explain why you describe yourself as very open and you get so triggered by these people? Yeah. Well, because I can explain that by my temperament. So I am very open to ideas. I think 94 on a big five temperament thing, like that psychological thing of temperament, which is open to ideas. I'm 94, so I'm very open to ideas. I think that's it's some, I don't know, mid upper 90s. However, I'm also like very volatile. My neuroticism is this is the passion that you see. Well, also I'm very enthusiastic and extroverted. Those are also in the 90th percentile. So, but my neuroticism is 91st percentile, which you don't see as much. You'll see it some, but I'm also 41, so I'm just older. So I'm more chill. I have less. My testosterone is just like, wow. And I'm not taking supplements because I think it's dumb because I'm a non-interventionist. Oh, because I think there'll be unintended side effects for people that take testosterone. No judgment. You do you. Um, so I have high volatility, and because I'm very emotional and relational. Because I think this is the thing. Conservatives. I'm a non-interventionist, so conservatives who temperamentally don't like disorder and chaos, like they're in they're what's the word? They're wired or inclined or predisposed. I suppose that's the word to be more ordered. But again, you can be deceived on either side. It's not better or worse. It's not better to be more ordered. And so they're predisposed that way. And so then they intervene, which is a masculine tendency. They intervene into things, especially into systems. This is why I'm not a systems person either, with all, to fix things. But again, it's like with COVID or it's like with anything. Yeah. I mean, mark this, YouTube or whatever. Um, and I say, like, your answers, your solutions will be worse than the disease. The thing you're trying to fix with your prescriptions and fixes, your interventions, you'll create bigger problems than you're even solving. I think conservatives do this all the time. And again, not just political conservatives, progressivist conservatives. Everybody who's trying to intervene and fix things. This is why Sherry will say, like, you're not supposed to fix things. You know, I don't think you should. Very often, the best solution is to let it be to me according to your word and try to like be holy yourself. I mean, but even that, not even fixing yourself, just like I don't know. It's a hard balance, and I understand that that sounds counterintuitive, and I get triggered just because a lot of it is my deconstruction. I see a lot of my leaving evangelicalism is because I was trying to talk about these things and deal with these problems. Because in these evangelical churches, I was like, you guys are trying to fix all these things and see all these things, but you can't see even what you're doing. It's the blind leading the blind. You have all these prescriptions for how to fix things, and you don't even know what you're doing. That's what. But like that same pattern again, I'm like a big pattern person. That pattern is pervasive everywhere with everybody trying to fix everything. That's why I call it the exclusivist religion of the right side of history. Everyone thinks they're on the right side of history in an either or dualistic way. Like I see the solution, and this is the prescription. This is how we can fix the world, and everybody needs to get on my team. Well, when everyone thinks that way, like you can't do anything. Everyone is in their own isolated solipsistic. This is where like objectivism leads to actually solipsism. People think they're being objective, but that's actually the solipsism, not the subjectivity. The subjective objective divide is dumb. Um, Canonizing the heretics seems like centering the fringe. No, it's just not excluding them. I'm not saying you should normalize them. That's the quote. That's my Twitter quote. The the conservative impulse is to deny and exclude the fringe, and the progressivist impulse is to want to canonize, or not canonize, sorry, is to normalize the fringe. I'm not saying normalize them. That's not what I mean by canonize. I'm just saying don't exclude them. Listen to them, keep them, value the heretic. Because as in as much as everyone is just trying to speak the truth and just not lie, you can have your prescriptive these are the right beliefs. Who cares? It doesn't matter if you don't actually believe them. So, okay. Americans are individualistic and self-centered. Yes. I'm glad you're smiling. I can see your smile and smiling out loud. Capped in the same place in the cosmos. Yeah, I think from everything I can tell, Dolly, we are resonating on the same morphic fields or resonances or something. Yeah, this is exactly it. The law increases the trespass, but I delight in the law of the Lord. Yeah. And spirit and law stuff. Like the spirit and the law aren't opposed to each other. And the law is just if you use it lawfully. First Timothy 1:23. The lawfully, that adverbial is important in that. Or like the whole book of Romans. Yeah. 99% in orderliness. I became Catholic. Like and again, like it's not wrong. Be orderly. Be who you are. Just don't try to intervene and prescribe and systematically impose upon the whole world your temperament. Like that's nuts. I don't want the whole world to be like me. Like we'd all be nuts. We'd all just be like, I'm crazy. The older brother is still invited to the party. Absolutely. He's the orderly one. And he's invited to the party, but because of his own insistence on his own way and exclusion of the prodigal, of the chaotic, of the one that he thinks should be excluded, he won't participate himself. His unforgiveness is the unforgivable sin. This is why forgiveness is the law that stands against its own judgment. Is because the older brother won't forgive, and so then he is excluded from the kingdom, from the party. The prodigal son and the older brother. That parable is so flipping amazing. No, no, Phlebas, this is where I'll disagree. Personality tests seem like an attempt to fix things. I don't like them. I don't agree. They're not. I don't think personality or the Enneagram. This is like in my last live stream with those guys, the guys that were talking about the origins of the Enneagram and why it's occultist and you shouldn't listen to it. The Enneagram has no prescriptions. It's just to increase self awareness. I think that's the goal of personality self awareness because until you bring something into the light, you can't do anything with it. What's there's a great Jung quote, I think, like, oh, what is it? The, just wait, just give me a second. Um, for some reason, I have the cave. It's like the cave you fear to enter holds the answer that you seek. It's like that, but it's like yeah, until you make the subconscious, I would say subconscious, conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. You have to become aware of things. Otherwise, you'll think like this is just like there's nothing I can do. Like I have no agency. Then you're stuck in this like determinism thing, and like whatever determinism is a complicated thing. You do you is very American. Yeah, but I don't believe in like the subjective objective divide. Like again, that's my whole understanding of authenticity as integrity or whatever. It's there is no other choice. You have to do you. What else are you going to do? Not you? The objective thing, that's the delusion. That's the solipsism I'm talking about. Yeah, need to protect my trigger button. Okay, I'm gonna work through these comments and I'm gonna leave. Let's see. What Mandy? Evangelical culture is overrepresented in orderly extroverts. I do see this shifting. Yeah, I agree. And evangelical culture is I don't know. Evangelical culture is complicated. I don't know. Paul Paul's talking with that Elizabeth girl from England, and it's a fantastic talk. I'm about halfway through it. I really like her, and It's kind of a difference between English and American Christianity. Like they have very different flavors. And American Christianity is very complicated for a variety of reasons. Everyone should be like Christ, and obviously I am pretty much there. Therefore, everyone should be like me. Yeah. It's, but if Christ, that Maximus Ambiguum, but if the will of God, very God, wills, why can't I ever remember it? I need to just commit this to memory because it's a very Lucian thing. That the word of God, very God, wills always and in all things to actualize the mystery of his incarnation. That's in everything, not just in you, not just in the right, also in the wrong, even in death, trampling down death by death. Where are you going to escape? Nowhere. Like there was some comment that I was just looking at in my comments this morning. Somebody replied to me that um, it was with Mills. Mills left me some comment that his pastor used to say to him, like, uh, it was some riff on like God. I can't even remember it. I'm not gonna be able to say it, but it's essentially like God is not gonna let you go. Kind of like a he's going to pursue you, and like it's a terrifying thing. But I'm like, yeah, that reminds me of like a severe universalism. Like, good luck. Uh, yeah, this is a McMo. This is a. I've been talking a lot with Almond Tree Jason about this. Jason's really into astrology because he's leaving me. He watches these live streams and then he sees comments and he has responses, but he'll probably be mad that he I didn't tell him I was going to do this morning because he can't participate. But I'm an early morning person, and he's been thinking a lot about astrology, and it's really tied to the Ransom trilogy. Actually, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about astrology too because it's and the gods and that book, that CS book about the like why can't I ever remember things? But um, the heavens and the planets and the gods and all that. It's like it's very because this is what Jason will always say. He's just like these people. I don't know why people are scared of magic and they bemoan magic, but then they do this stuff. Like, what were some of the examples he was thinking? Like, what do you think this is? What do you think this is? You don't think this is magic? Participation in sorcery and magic? If you went back to medieval times and you showed someone a cell phone and you were looking at this flat pane of glass that you're looking into that allows you to transmit your mind and communicate with people all over the earth, that's not magic? Come on. Come on. Come on. It's like a Theo Vaughn thing. All right. Anyhow, I'm not, and again, I'm going to stop, but I will say this. To be conservative in temperament and desire and even intention, the intention is fine. It's great. Conserve things. Planet Narnia. Thank you, Wayne. That's the book. You're the one who told me about it, and I need to read it. I'm sorry. But maybe Wayne, we should have a conversation with Jason about astrology and Christianity or something. Um, it's not wrong to be conservative in the same way it's not wrong to be temperamentally liberal. Again, I'm not talking about American politics because I think they're both conservative, actually, veiled conservatives with different values. It's all fine, but don't take your temperament or your preferences or your certain fear. Because I have a fear of hyperorderedness, right? I fear the hillbilly, not the Camaro, not the thing that I can't identify and categorize. I'm not scared of that. I'm temperamentally liberal, but I don't think everyone should be like me. That's where I'm different. And I think this is why I think all institutions are inherently demonic because then if you try to take and systematize your preferences and then apply that to other people in the whole world, things get things get dangerous. You're trying to control the spirit, and you can't. The spirit moves where it wills. So again, this isn't like a tirade against conservatism. Conservatives are great if you know what you're conserving, and we're conserving hospitality, to quote my priest. Thank you, Chad. I love you, and I'm gonna go. Marylander, you're here. All right, in stream. Love y'all. That's the end of my. Now that people are showing up, that's my tirade against this conservative impulse to that's just rooted in fear. That I find to be, I mean, insane, really, and dangerous. Because to be hyper conservative is just as dangerous as to be hyper liberal. Okay, Chad, you can come in and say just a little bit of one little thing, because then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna read Dally's comment here.
Hi.
Phlebas, no, it's not. No, it's not. See, this is Phlebas. This is why I wish you were here. This whole stream is a screed against those who are different than you. No, it's not. See, this is why you have before you criticize someone, you should try to understand what they're saying. I am not saying that people that are different than me shouldn't be the way that they are. I'm saying that people that are different than me shouldn't demand that everyone else is like them. In the same way that I don't demand that everyone that's different than me is like me. Do you understand the difference? Chad, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's the principle that AA operates on. It really only, and this is why I try not to really, I I really try to stay away from the temptation of jumping in this. I think it is good that we talk about it because it's it's hard to explain this to people who can't see it. But this concept, um, this concept is best embodied by the desperate, and you have to. And the humility is realizing how desperate people are, and they might not even know it. And so that's the spirit that I try to approach this idea of. Um, and I noticed it in listening to Malcolm and Simone when they started basically talking about building your own religion. It tripped me out. I was like, ugh, like I had this allergic flinch, and I thought, oh my god, this is like a nightmare. And then I was like, yeah, but how different is that from like having a God of your own understanding?
Yeah. Chad, this is something I've lost track of time. I have an appointment at 9. I really
Oh,
have to go. I'm ridiculous. But this, I want to talk to this more about you. The God of your understanding, I think we should just have a whole conversation about because
mhm,
I'm kind of obsessed with that, reading the big book now. And even
mhm,
this, like I get it. Tolerance is its own demand. I'm not the kind of like universal tolerance thing that like the
mhm,
American progressivists talk about. That's not what I'm advocating. That's not what I'm
right,
advocating.
yeah.
So anyhow, I appreciate the pushback, Phlebas. Chad, thank you for coming in and
Mhm.
to be continued. I gotta go.
All right, bye.
Peace, guys.